There we go. That's a good noise.
Excellent. Maybe I should introduce you again.
I think that's just fine. I can do it myself. So
Okay.
as Kelly said, I'm Jon Roy with the Curtis Memorial Library. I'm their technology librarian, but that really covers a number of different tasks. Um, and thankfully, they were able to let me kind of focus on my own interests. So part of that began with the Repair Cafe program, which, if you're unfamiliar with, it started over in Europe, or the Netherlands, actually, a number of years ago now, and it has grown in popularity worldwide. I first came across the idea through reading a book called Repair Revolution, I believe, which introduced the idea to me, and I didn't see any reason why we couldn't start something similar up here at Curtis. So I began the process of reaching out to our robust group of volunteers to see if any of them had experience or a willingness to attempt repairs for a number of different items that we may normally see come across our desk. Uh, and a few of them were very energetic about the idea. And that's really how we started. We started out with a core group of, I believe, about 5 volunteers, covering a variety of different topics. We had one sewer, we had a lamp repairman who has been our absolute superhero. Um, the most common item we see come across our desk is lamps, which surprises me, but we have at least 4 every session. So he's straight out every time, and he's been into every single one of our events. So we're thrilled to have him. We started out with one of our common volunteers who does work around here at the library, doing a lot of woodworking and stuff like that. He started us off, and it has really grown from there. Um, and that's really what your repair cafes would lend on itself on or grow on is your volunteers. Any area you believe that could be of interest to your community, there's probably someone who, as a hobbyist or as a professional, has experience with taking it apart, reassembling, or experimenting with that subject. Reach out to your crafting groups. They're probably already meeting in your libraries, so you can certainly see if any of them would be interested in lending their mending skills. From there, it also immediately became apparent how much of a benefit this would be to our library of things as well. As you probably know, things break often and frequently, either through misuse or just, unfortunately, shoddy construction. So if things break, you're able to call on an already established team of volunteers who are able to at least attempt disassembling and repairing the item. So really, that's been a phenomenal resource for us that way. Um, as we started to grow and the word about our repair cafe got out, we started offering our events every 3 months, giving people time to build up a pile of stuff to be repaired for when they wanted to come to the repair cafe. But then we started seeing more and more interest from other organizations from the local community, allowing us after the first year to grow into a monthly event. The only way that was even possible is through collaboration with other organizations. We first started with the Patent Free Library over in Bath, who, like I said, already had a built up community that we wanted to reach. So, partnership with their adult services librarian, Hannah, has been a great resource. We were then able to rotate our event between here at Curtis and the Patent Free Library in Bath. And they've also had a phenomenal response from their community. I think last month when we were just there most recently, they had 30 people attend the Repair Cafe. A few comments we got where they didn't know that this had been happening. And for some people, it was their very first trip to the library to come to the Repair Cafe. So there is a need in their communities, and repair cafes are a necessary way, an excellent way of reaching them. Um, then after Patton, we then started working with the Habitat for Humanity, also in Bath, who we thought would be an excellent resource because this is what their focus on is reusing items that would otherwise go to waste. So they've been an excellent resource, and they already had a phenomenal group of volunteers as well that we were hoping to kind of expand on who would be interested in working with the public and repairing items. And so through those partnerships in particular, we grew to about a monthly event where we rotate between the three locations throughout the Bath and Brunswick area. And then from there, we're just continued to grow. Other libraries have approached us. We've worked with the Harpswell Aging at Home, who then started up their own event after talking with us and seeing the impact our events have. And that has been phenomenal. So if not only can you affect your local community through these offering these events, not only your library, but also the surrounding communities as well, once they start hearing that these programs are available and that these solutions are possible. So we've had a phenomenal turnout of interest. And one of the other benefits we've really seen in these kind of events is a neighborhood feeling. Um, you'll find someone that will bring in their lamp to be repaired, and they will spend almost the whole morning there at the library, just bouncing from table to table, seeing what services are available, and just chatting with their neighbors. So it's been a phenomenal way of connecting humans that may not normally pass each other besides the grocery store into another opportunity to socialize and connect and make new friendships. I hear the morning bouncing from great comments about how we're offering this and making this available to laughing out loud at the jokes between these friends and thrown together neighbors. We really enjoyed being able to offer them. Uh, and that's really the basics is that we started off on our own by ourselves. And then through smart collaboration of local organizations that were already offering a similar service or were willing to take it on, um, they were happy to help us grow. And that's been all our goal has been right from the beginning is to not only make the service available, but to grow it to reach as many people as possible. Sorry, Kelly, what was that?
Can you can you elaborate a little bit more on the process that of finding your repairers?
Right.
And also, I'd be curious about what other items. I mean, you mentioned a few of things that you've had repaired, but if you can elaborate more on what
Sure.
kinds of items you've
So
repaired.
we started with, like I said, the volunteers that were already working at the library, seeing if there was any interest in this type of program. Beyond that, it's really been word of mouth, putting it out there that we have this service, putting out the kind of skills you were looking to pull in, and just offering it with what you have and seeing and putting it out the ways you're looking to grow. Unfortunately, there's no way to pull in interested individuals. Just got to reach them through your customers, through your patrons that come to you for help. They're going to spread the word. Um, any advertising you do for these events is going to spread awareness through newspapers, through Facebook posts. All of that is going to spread the word out about what your organization or is offering to the community.
Is
Um,
there, I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt. Is there any way, any need to vet the people who say, yeah, I know how to fix lamps? I mean, do we know that this person knows how to fix lamps? I don't know.
um, we haven't run into any issues like that. I'm sure it happens if we have a phenomenal volunteer coordinator here at the library, and they often do some kind of interview process with any of our volunteers coming in to make sure they're willing
Sure.
to work with the public and able to. So that would have been a big help. But we started out before even that, before we started roping it into that level of volunteerism. Um, I'm sure there could be situations where arise where they're not as experienced as other people, but honestly, that's perfectly fine. Um, Part of the goal of repair cafes is education. So we will often, one of my favorite parts is that when you have a complicated item come in for repair, you're not just working one on one with someone, you're working with probably 4 or 5 people that will bounce around just to see how things are going and put in their 2 cents. And that's uh, amazing to see because not only is the patron learning how to repair the item, but the repairer themselves is learning more about electronics or how things work or are laid out. So if they're not 100%, I think if they're not perfectly knowledgeable or aware of every instance of items that may come in, that's perfectly fine. As long as they're willing to learn and take the risk of disassembling something, going explaining their knowledge to the patron, and then giving advice if they can't answer a question or solve a problem of where to go for further resources or further education, or if it's time to get something professionally repaired. Um, I I know you wanted to hear about other items, but there's one other question, one other thing I want to make clear is that when every patron comes into the library for something to be repaired, they have a waiver to sign. Basically, we waive all responsibility if the item cannot be repaired. We waive all safety responsibility if after repairing the item they come to harm from it. Um, really, that's it. Just waiving any kind of liability for the library. Um,
Is it
I
possible for you to share that waiver form
Yeah, I'd be
with
happy to.
us?
I can send it out to you after the meeting.
Great.
Um, and then also our volunteers have a very similar waiver. If they get harmed while doing a repair, the library is not liable for that. Um, so we're covered as much as we can be. Again, we've never had to use them, but we wanted to make sure we had all the bases covered. As for different types of repair, we have a number of different categories that we see frequently. There are woodworking objects that come in, wooden furniture like chairs that need rungs or rails being re-glued. We see a few mending projects that come in like jeans or fabric. It's any variety of fabric materials that come in that need to be resewn, rehemmed, mended. We've seen a little bit of pottery come in, not too much, but a little bit of questions about adhesives and what to use for different types of materials. Um, we've offered knife sharpening. So we've seen a number of different items come in, including a chainsaw to be sharpened or more complicated items that you wouldn't normally know how to sharpen yourselves or other companies wouldn't know how to sharpen. We see a lot of knives and scissors. Those are frequently coming in. We're happy to instruct on how to do that. Um, Woodworking, mending. A lot of electronics come in. We've seen two or three phonographs or record players come in that need to be reworked or the belts adjusted. CD players, vacuum cleaners have been very popular to be repaired. Um, Trying to think of
So not
things.
only are you actually repairing this item, but you're teaching the person that's bringing it in how to do it themselves. Okay.
Exactly. So it keeps items out of the landfill as
Mhm.
well as teaching them how common most of these repairs are and are easily DIY friendly if you're willing to take the risk or you have the resources of where to go to get knowledge. Oftentimes, I'll see repairers pull up ifixit.com or some other instructional YouTube videos to see how other people have disassembled things to do it safely and um, to access the innards of each item. So it's not only instructing people how to do it, but where to go to find correct information.
Um, I had a question, but now it's escaped me. Does anybody else in the chat have questions?
I, I have a question.
Hi.
Yeah.
Um, Hi, John. I know we've met before to talk about repair fairs, and I asked you a bunch of questions
Mhm.
then, but I have more, so thank you for doing this. So our Waste Reduction Committee is actually applying for a Natural Resources Council of Maine grant to host a series of repair fairs, or at least start with two and see how it goes. And I'm just wondering if you have recommendations in terms of like tools or supplies or materials that might be helpful to have beforehand. I know a lot of volunteers bring their own tools, but I wouldn't expect them to bring too many things themselves. So just wondering if you have recommendations.
Not so much on tools. What I always tell people is that your volunteers are the experts in this area. So
Mm,
if you do have questions about what to provide, talk to them first. They will tell you uh, most likely what they're going to bring. And
okay.
our volunteers have been great. They've been bringing the majority of their tools. If there's something they don't have, they let me know, and you can check with another volunteer, and they'll have it. They'll have duplicates or a spare, or I can go check the library stock of maintenance supplies as well to usually
Mm,
find something. But yeah, certainly check with your volunteers. As for items and supplies to have on hand, it's hard to tell. You never know what's really going to walk through your door. I would have the basics of lamp switches or lamp sockets on hand. Like I said, we see a lot of those. Um, Basic wire, like for lamps, they sell lamp cord wire, um, plugs as well. Some of those need to be replaced or rewired. Otherwise, it's really hard to tell and prepare for that. I have a stockpile of stuff I just buy before every event.
mm.
And then what we use, I'll replace. What we don't can wait for 3 months, 4 months before it's needed. So you never know. Certainly talk to your repairers. They'll have a little bit more experience with what the commonly broken items are. But again, it depends on what walks through that door.
Okay, that is good to know. Thank you.
Is there
And
any
Um,
then
issue, is there any issue with stepping on the toes of local people who do this for a living?
certainly, yes. And it depends on what kind of areas. Like we do very basic computer repair, like on how to change a part. Well, not even that. It's more kind of computer troubleshooting rather than computer repair. So if you need more specialized parts or specific pieces that need to be replaced, it's probably better going to a professional. Um, but who's is there any organization out there that's rewiring lamps nowadays or changing out the sockets or plugs? Not none that I can think of. The only things that really come close would be watch repair, high-end furniture refinishing, or something like that, um, and computer repair that we've come close to touching, uh, but not really to a degree. A lot of it's just instructional kind of things.
Yeah,
I haven't done
I
it.
think the knife sharpening was the one that brought it to my mind because I think we have somebody at the farmer's market who sharpens knives or
It's true.
so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oftentimes it's someone acting. I don't want to say it's always someone working on themselves or working on their own. I often see it for a specialized service at a hardware store or something like that. Um, I think there's enough of a market, for that skill, and it's honestly it's so easy to learn on your own, anywhere or online. The resources are there. I don't think anyone's going to object to another person in the field.
Right.
Along that same line, do you ever have like a list of businesses that are local that do kind of the more advanced versions of these kinds of repairs?
I haven't. That's not a
Okay.
bad idea. But also it goes back to my point that if the volunteer at the library event can't repair something, like I said, they're already invested and aware of what's going on in that hobby or profession.
Mm,
They most likely know of people in the area that are offering professional or more advanced services that they will often refer people to. But it's not a bad idea to have it on hand, though there does run the issue of having the library speak and recommending people of
yeah.
as this is the best person to go to for this issue. We try to avoid that as much as possible.
Do people bring very large items like their lawnmower into the building or like how do you address, I can see somebody coming in and wanting to sharpen the blades on their lawnmower.
Yes. Um, we haven't run into that issue yet. Um, Thankfully, lawnmower blades are removable, so they could always take it off and bring in the blade. We'd be fine with that.
Mhm.
We do have one rule, which is no gas powered items, because usually there's some level of turning it on to test it. And in our tiny little room, it is not as efficient. Um, and there are enough professional organizations doing that kind of small engine repair as well. So we wouldn't want to step on anyone's toes.
Yeah. So in all of your publicity, you make that clear, sort of.
Probably not as much as we should, but
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
but we wouldn't be able to repair anything like washing machines or anything like that
Mm,
too big. If it's heavy enough to carry into the library, it's probably okay.
right. Yeah, I hadn't thought about somebody loading their washing machine onto the back of their truck and bringing it in. That
Yep.
would really be something.
Mainers are determined, so you never know.
Does anybody have a question for the chat?
I have another question.
Yeah,
Excellent.
go right ahead.
Go for it.
Sorry.
A free for all.
So I think you have mentioned that continued funding for these events comes from the library's budget. Is that true?
Yes,
Okay.
we use our programming budget line for this kind of program. And like I said, the parts itself are not that expensive. I spend maybe 250 over the entire year just to buy
Oh,
those
wow.
sockets and lamp cord. It's really very affordable, which is why we're offering this kind of program to show people how it's manageable to do these kind of repairs yourself. The other thing that the budget line supports is their coffee and donut habit. It's at
Mhm.
10 a.m. on a Saturday morning. It's always good to have snacks available, not only for your repairers, but for the public in general. It's a great way to get them in.
Yes, absolutely.
Particularly since people linger, right? They want
They
to
do,
have that.
which is what we want people to do.
That's right.
I've heard that sometimes people accept donations at events like as well. Is that something that you do? And if so, like what fund does that go into?
So we do accept donations. We have a little tip jar at one of our desks that people can either swipe their card or leave money for. I don't know what happens to it after that. I know it goes to support the library's many programs and movements. I don't specifically get it added to my budget line.
Got
That's
it. Okay. Because
that's
we
above my
we
pay
were
grade.
looking at maybe having a donations option and it going to friends of the library because departments themselves can't accept donations without council approval. I don't know if that's throughout municipalities or if it varies from one to the next. So I was just wondering um, how that funding works. Thanks.
Yeah, I would certainly check with the library director. I'm sure they know.
Yeah.
But I don't think it would be a problem if you accept donations to support this specific program. I just we have to support the library as a whole, and it will come back to us eventually.
So I think this is a very basic question. How long is one particular event? So you hold it for is it a couple of hours or?
So we average about 2 hours to two and a half. Um, we run from 10 a.m. to 12:30. There's usually a big rush right as we open the doors. Um, this last one we just had on Saturday was busy until about noon, where we slowed down. And then usually there's a last 10-minute rush of someone bringing in something as just as we're about to close up, which tends to be the way. Again, it really depends on your own community. You never know. You may get a bigger 10 a.m. rush, and that may be it for your morning. Um, it's really up to you and how much time your volunteers are willing to give to you.
And I would imagine well, you said you started it at every 3 months and then you've increased it over time. So there's a period at which you're just building you might even have just one repair come in, but you got to stick with it, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
how we started. We had a
Yeah.
few. Maybe people weren't familiar with the offerings or what could be done. Um, and then it really kind of built up from there once word of mouth got out. So you're going to have to stick through the small attendance at the start.
Excellent. So Susan, have you started your own repair cafe or you're still?
We're in the planning process. So I'm the staff liaison for the Waste Reduction Committee, and this is kind of their project. But I'm applying for the funding, so I want to make sure I have all the the questions answered for the grant. But we're thinking January is probably when our first one's going to be, and the South Portland Library has agreed to host. So
Nice. Okay.
Are you considering
Yeah,
hosting one as well? Yeah.
yes, and we had a very brief conversation with I'm at Prince Memorial in Cumberland and our neighboring library in Falmouth. We kind of said, hey, we should maybe do that. So I think we're gonna start conversations on that and probably aim for, yeah, winter, I would think. Um, but yeah, it's exciting. I think it's a great idea. So fun.
Yeah. Also, if you are looking for initial startup funding, I speak to someone, or I spoke to someone at Natural Resource Council of Maine, and they were saying that this is very much aligned with the goal of their sustainability grants. So, I mean, I haven't gotten it. I don't know if
Yeah.
um how, but it's a very simple application. So, just something to consider. And I think they put them out twice a year.
Okay. Is that where, so you're with the tool library in South Portland, right? Because
Yes.
you're very
Yep.
familiar. You've done this, right? For the tool library, you did
I
a
did
thing.
this a
Okay.
few months ago. Yes.
Right. Okay. I'm connecting the dots now. So is that the same grant that you did for the tool
No.
library? No.
So the tool library is the DEP waste diversion grant, which it's up to $40,000 for that one. So probably more than you
Yeah.
need for this kind of project.
Yeah,
And
right.
then
Sure.
the Natural Resources Council of Maine, I think, is like up to $3,000. So more in line.
Yeah, right. Interesting. Um, any other questions? John, do you have anything else any other hot tips you want to give us?
Yes. I'm sorry, I'm looking what Susan said reminded me. There isn't a group that meets just about repair cafes and repair in general. I'm trying to find the Zoom link now to share with you. It's probably every once a month, I think, and everyone is more than welcome to join.
Did
Just
it meet recently?
yeah, I think it was just last week. It
Okay.
is
I got
through the
several emails
DEP.
last week.
Yep,
Okay.
the
And
DEP
And
as part
it's
of that.
Maine people or it's more
It's
nationwide?
Maine, Maine based. Yes.
Oh.
Sorry, I get so many emails. I didn't think to have it ahead.
And just a reminder too, John, I mean, you don't have to do it right now, but a copy of the waiver form would be great.
Yep,
And maybe you just send it to the LOT.
sure. I'll make sure Hazel gets a copy and she can send
Yeah,
it out
that'd
to
be
all of you.
great. Um, cool. I don't have any other questions. You're still looking for the thing for
Yep,
you could
just
include
one.
that in a follow-up email too.
That's true. Yeah, that might be the easiest way.
Yep.
I'm
Uh,
glad you mentioned that though, because I knew there was some meeting last week that I was not a part of because several people told me they heard about the tool library through a group, but no one told me what the group was. So thanks for filling in the blank.
I'm sorry I don't have more firm information in front of me here.
No, it's totally fine.
No, that's fine. If you can follow up, that would be great. And
Yeah, I'll
I'm
send that
actually
out.
glad to know about it. I didn't know that it existed, so that's going to be super helpful for me. So much
Um,
appreciated.
and the only other thing is that I'm easily accessible online as well. If you guys have any questions at all, feel free to reach out. I'll be happy to help.
Fantastic. Can
Thank
you
you.
put your email in the chat?
So
jroy@curtislibrary.com.
that's what I heard.
JRI. Easy.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Well, I think we should call it a wrap. What do you say? Yeah. Thanks very much, John. This was great. Very
very welcome.
informative. And the recording will be available for people to listen to. So hooray.
Excellent.
All
Thank
right.
you so much.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.